Avalanche Gaming continues to be one of the stars here within the Web3 gaming space, and today we're going to dive into a project that is one of the stars of Avalanche Gaming, and I think you guys are going to like it. My name is Paul Barrett. Welcome back into Tech Path. All right, so what I want to do here is kind of give you guys a framework around this. So this is an example of StarCraft 2, which is a Web 2 game. But the thing I wanted to focus on is some of the stats. You look at the historical player count, all-time peak around 14.5 million, average is around 2.2 million players that have been active on the game itself. So the point being is that this is a similar game to a project that's out there within the Avalanche ecosystem around there called Pulsar. And Pulsar has, so it kind of gives you a framework of what the potential is. And if you look at the subnet growth here, in terms of just transactions, all the way back to July of last year, to where they are flying right now, and this is one of the projects that really takes up a lot of the transaction bandwidth within the subnets on Avalanche. So that being said, we thought, all right, let's get a little bit deeper on this and dive into it. So I want to bring in Alvaro Martin, who is the CEO of Pulsar Game. Great to have you.
Thank you for having me here, Paul. It's a pleasure. It's actually you are on my daily shows in YouTube, so
very good.
It's a pleasure to be in this part of the screen.
Well, welcome in. So Alvaro, let's get into a little bit. First of all, when can we play the game? I mean, when do we think this is going to hit mainnet? Some of our team has had a chance to kind of go in on, I guess, the trial version of this. But what does this look like in terms of timing for Pulsar to launch?
So Pulsar is being developed since 1 year and something. Maybe we are hitting 1 year and a half, and we are running like an open type of beta here. We pretend to hit mainnet in Q2, but everybody can start playing the game right now. You just go to pulsar.game, download the game, and you're going to experience a few things. Like, you don't need a wallet to play. We have a Web2 experience already built in, and it's just install and play and make friends in Discord, share different strategies, play our events. Actually, quite important that before mainnet, the people are able to give a chance to the game, because they can bring their feedback, can be introduced that feedback into the game. And actually, we are going to run an event next week, which we call Mainer Mania, and we have 15 million Pulsar in a kind of gaming airdrop. So go to play the game and enjoy it.
Oh, nice. Okay, well then there you go, guys. That's one of the things you could do right now within Pulsar. What about, so you're saying that launch on mainnet is, did you say Q2?
Q2, yes. We pretend to do it around the Bitcoin halving for a few reasons. First of all, we think that the Bitcoin halving is going to put eyes again on crypto, and not only on Bitcoin, right? People are going to start looking what the people were developing into the bear market, which are the solid products out there. And we think it's a good opportunity to launch the game.
So Alvaro, I've had a chance to talk to a lot of game devs, and chain selection is usually one of the top things that gets started. And if you look at what was available in the marketplaces, what was available within the blockchains, why choose Avalanche? Why did you guys go this direction? What was the decision tree for making that happen?
Actually, it's a quite nice story, because in my previous company, Web2 company, I was trying to convince the upper management to do the jump into Web3 gaming. It was quite tough, and I was researching all the blockchain out there. How can we do this? How can we build a truly Web3 gaming experience on top of whatever the blockchain? And actually, it was very complicated to get in touch with the different tech teams. I tried Discord, mails. Probably I tested everything out there. Cardano, Solana, many others, Polygon, and so on. Until something magical happened, that I entered in the Discord of Avalanche, which I didn't know at the time existed. But the most important thing for me was that were robust, EVM compatible, and
Right.
the documentation was right. Yeah, something that is technically very important for us developers,
Right.
because we need a solid base in which you build. And the magical thing that happened is that I was throwing questions and I got answers right away, which
Imagine that.
that imagine that, hey, how do I do this and that. I built a whole document. I had quite nice meetings with the team, and they talked to me and they told me, hey, we have this thing called subnets that we are
Yeah.
about to launch, that I think is a perfect fit for you or for projects like you. And then there is the marriage. We started using it, testing it, developing all our infrastructure, all the tools that we are used to have in Web 2. And so far we are testing it very well, I think.
I agree. Now I understand that they're actually walking the walk over there, and I don't just get a lot of lip service from the Avalanche team telling
No,
me that they
totally.
are
No,
doing
it's
it.
totally.
It's good to hear. It's good to hear. Let's get into a little bit about the land, because I want to get into this. This is in terms of the largest map. How many players can the largest map hold right now? I was looking at this on the website, in terms of just the game ecosystem itself. What's the capacity there?
Yeah, so every land, when we are going to launch in Mainnet, we are going to have up to 64 players. Right now, we are testing in lands of 8 players each.
Okay.
Dungeons, sometimes in some events, we activate them 16 players at the same time.
Right.
But it will really depend on what the players are going to buy. If they want to start in a small land with a high rarity and high security, meaning they are not going to have too much attacks from aliens, we are going to adapt to their preferences. For me, and for what I can say, is better to play with more people having fun all together and
Right.
killing as much alien as possible.
If you guys haven't played this game, the gameplay is pretty good. Our team has had a chance to get in there and dive into it a little bit. But, and if you look at just, some of the successes that we've seen here recently, this is a good possibility, I think, of having a Web3 game really break out this year. So I'm looking forward to see it happening for sure. When are you going to release the mobile version, or is that something that's on the roadmap?
So first, we think we are going to release on iPad, because it's more similar to a PC in terms of the screen, how big it is.
Right.
There are some attempts to bring an RTS to mobile, but should be assisted, and it's quite different in UI, right? Because here in our game we have 3 kind of different modes to appeal to different audiences. It's not an RTS as usual. Actually, we are an MMORTS, which basically means you have these components of World of Warcraft with
Right.
the unit progression, player-driven economy, and it's quite difficult to bring all of that information in a very small screen. What we think when we are going to what we are going to do is first tap on iPad, which is going to be
Okay.
a more comfortable type of gaming experience. And then when we pass to mobile, there are things that are going to be assisted, but it's what we
Okay.
call in the industry the game of chat, right? It's like
Yeah.
on mobile, it's quite easy to administrate your land, your units, your upgrades, your resources, and so on in mobile, chat with other people, and have this engagement with the community. But in the moment you are going to be serious about it, what you're going to do is connect your PC and enjoy the full experience with your
Yeah.
friends, right? Because the battles are going to be more complex, so you need a bit more of a bigger screen and possibly a keyboard and so on.
Yeah. What about interoperability? I mean, you look at the number of subnets that are launched here within the Avalanche ecosystem. There's a lot that we've talked with. We just had, and we'll be dropping a video on from the Beam team, so we're going to be talking about that. But what about interoperability between games on and within the Avalanche ecosystem for gaming?
So that, from the developer's perspective, is quite complicated, because if a game doesn't have our same style of assets, include other assets in our game, needs development from both sides. Yeah, there are things that can be quite curious to do with that interchain operability. So bringing all the game assets to your assets. But it's quite complicated in our case. I think it's a dream in the industry, like, hey, I have a spaceship in this game. Can I go with this spaceship to another game? And it's technically possible, but the problem is that you are going to disrupt the gameplay of that other game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So might be cool for some sort of close events when you achieve with your friends and other chains or the subnets some kind of event where you can mix up those assets. But in terms of regular gameplay with assets of other game, I think it's quite a disruption of the game economy itself.
Okay, so let's get into the token a little bit here, talking about tokenomics of Pulsar, the PLSR token. Talk to me about that. What's the kind of the strategy there that you guys are developing there?
So first, we started with the infrastructure. Yeah, as a former tech director of Kin, we had 300 million active users. So one thing was clear to me since the very beginning, that the money is in the infrastructure that supports all the games you put on top. Yeah, at Kin, we have 18 games, not only Candy Crush. Yeah, so rather being an NFT enabled game, which is the case of 99% of the games out there, that where you can buy NFTs or things in crypto with a token floating around. So we replaced the whole economy engine that normally is done with a database and a fiat gateway. Yeah, we wanted to go beyond, and all steps in the game have a reflection in the NFTs you hold. This is why we first built all the bespoke infrastructure, and we built our game with those principles, right? So Pulsar is at the end one token economy instead of rather than being the typical two token economy when one gets dumped into it. So we care a lot about the value of our Pulsar token. Yeah, our max supply is 1 billion tokens, and those tokens get only extracted from Genesis land. Those Genesis land, when you buy them, is like buy a portion of the total supply of Pulsar, yeah, and is a managed economy rather than I don't know, like a schedule-based token release economy. What that means, in simple terms, is that we are not going to release more land that holds Pulsar unless we hit 50K players, 100K players, 500,000 players, and so on. With that, we have that kind of balance between what the users are buying and extracting the liquidity from the market and what the potential supply. So when you buy a land, you have that piece of Pulsar, let's say, in your land, and then with your mining gear and your ability, which is what we call proof of work in our game, you extract that liquidity of Pulsar. Then you decide if you want to put it on the open market, or rather, if you prefer to reinvest to improve your mining gear. Yeah. Then one of the pillars of how we understand that the sustainable tokenomics should be is how we drive the revenue value to our token. So when you are going to buy, like in Web2, to do the similar with the Web2 experience, you normally pay to have gold bars or gems in your game. In our case, the future users that are going to have this Web2 experience are going to buy a pack of Pulsar. And without Pulsar, are going to buy whatever things in the game, consumables, speed ups, and so on and so forth. What they are doing is actually acquiring those Pulsar in the market. So you have that virtuous balance between miners producing the liquidity and the number of different players, our user base, consuming that Pulsar. Yeah.
Okay.
So obviously there are more things like all the things, peer-to-peer trading, the burning of tokens, and so on. We can dig down into that rabbit hole later if you want.
Okay, so those are solid. I think, from a tokenomics standpoint, many people, I do like the fact that you're on one single token. So I think that is a benefit compared to what we've seen we won't name games, but you know who
Yeah,
I'm
I
talking about.
understand. I understand. At the beginning was very hard. It was very hard when we
Yeah,
were
I
presenting
could see
the
that.
tokenomics to our initial investors. They were expecting a two tokens economy, and
Hmm.
they were asking us all the time, "Hey, how do I create more than this to dump it?" And then came the collapse of those tokens in the
Yeah,
market, and is when they came back to us and told us, "Hey, your tokenomics
yeah,
looks
that's a
very
good thing.
good."
What about listings? What do you feel like is going to the potential for listings for Pulsar in terms of a roadmap going forward?
Yeah, so in terms of the roadmap, in Q1 is where we are starting to do our private round. Q2, we are going to be publishing the game in the Epic marketplace
Okay.
and releasing the game. Then is when we are going to around the Bitcoin halving, as I was mentioning before, is when we think we should do everything together. Launch the game in the Epic Game Store, centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges. So
Okay.
Q2 is the moment for us.
Perfect. Well, that's just around the corner. I mean, you guys we're leaning up on that now with January almost over. Let's talk a little bit about,
Exactly.
because this to me is kind of unique of what you guys are doing with integration with Rust hubs, which is kind of the next evolution of Discord. If you think about how this might work out there, you guys announced this partnership. How do you see this as opposed or in lieu of using something like a Discord for the future around gaming ecosystems, communities, all that good stuff? Do you feel like this is going to be just the new Web3 version of Discord?
Possibly, I think so. So at the end, this traditional Web2 platform has a mix. They have a mixture of between being afraid to do the
Right.
step or the right move to Web3 and conserve their audience. Right? You have Discord and you have Steam, for instance,
Yep.
that they say, hey, we don't want to do anything about Web3, but it's because they are afraid to lose what they have. Right? So one of the strategy is either they do a spin-off in Web3 and crypto with a similar product, if they have the bravery to do it,
Yeah.
or they will wait to get disrupted. Yeah, which means other company which more interest or vision into the future are going to do an early project and a step on that direction. Yeah, some gaming companies did like a spin-off. We are seeing those kind of things. Like, yeah, it's not the same as us, but we are trying. And in the case of Discord, which is at the end the real-time kind of gaming chat by default, the guys are doing the similar experience, but hey, now it's Web3. You can enjoy all the integration with Web3, which at
Right.
the end is going to grow the ecosystem. Not only our game or Avalanche, it's going to help us all in this new Web3 gaming industry. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I was looking at their tweet, and they were talking about, just the amount of partnerships that they've. Let me kind of zoom in on that so you guys can kind of see some of the partnerships that have been done. I mean, there's legends in there. You got Illuvium, Azuki, Mochaverse, several in there, Gods and Chains, etc. Point is that they're starting to draw in some key players within the industry. So we could see an uptick here of what, to your point, is possibly a disruption there, because this is going to be a very integral part of Web3 gaming in the future as we start to see a lot more integrations into communities like this. So kudos to you guys for jumping in on that. Let's talk a little bit about GuildFi, because this is something that I've talked about before. Guild Tech is a good example of one, and remember we saw the guilds really kind of come to light in the last round of Web3 gaming, mostly within a different model, quite a bit of a different business model of how they would really kind of grow. What is your thought on how this might play a role in this next evolution of Web3 gaming?
Basically, there is two factors here. Play with more people is more fun.
Right.
And additionally to that, being in a guild unlocks additional experiences. At the end, even though you play alone in your room with your game, you want to play with other people in one way or another. Guilds with people all around the world can unify their interests together to achieve whatever the goal. Yeah, and if it's fun and killing things and making things explode, fantastic. In our case, as we appeal to a wider audience, we expect to have guilds that are only miners, other guilds that are going to be only builders, and other guilds that are going to be just what we call warlords, which are maybe more the hardcore people that are going out there, and they are going to have battles, and those battles are going to have different impact globally into the game. Hey, this skill attack my miners, now I don't have supply of Pulsar or different resources to improve my game. Then start kicking in different mechanics. So we see guilds in our game as one of the first step or drivers that are going to attract new users. Because when new users enters in a game that has a rich guilds ecosystem, they are going to feel suddenly in the first stages of their onboarding like welcome, you know? And that kind of feeling, if you are able to make it right, that feeling, those people are going to stay for a very long time. So it's essential, in my opinion.
Let's talk about Apple Vision Pro and also Quest 3. You know, with the MetaQuest, we're seeing big movements here. Likelihood this kind of game could really fall into some potential there. This was a tweet, you know, just talking about, you know, tabletop AR, MR looks pretty interesting from a perspective of traditional games. And this is an example of similar type of games. If you look at kart racers, StarCraft, obviously Dota, another one. Would this play a role in your, you know, roadmap going forward, trying to go something into AR, VR?
It's early. So there is one technical or biohuman, if you want, issue, which is the motion sickness. That is the point where it's not making this technology fly and be widely adopted. So things like AR are more suited to the players, because as you were showing in the image, you have like a tabletop which is augmented. Yeah, and the experience get enriched, right? Is if you think about it, Warhammer 40K or fantasy, or some sort of the tabletop games, or a kind of a StarCraft and so on. So at the end, the time is going to arrive. I don't have doubt about it, but it's going to be a slow paced. Yeah, those images that you are showing.
Yeah,
it's, I mean, to be fully embedded into the game with a VR glass, I think we still have a long way to go because of that motion sickness. Because if not, you need to restrict the time you play, like 15 minutes. Exactly. I think in games like Pulsar, you are going to use the VR glasses in the future. We are not planning right now to jump into it, because the devices need to be a bit more technically advanced, and but I think it's going to be well suited for small experiences at the beginning, like, hey, I will do this dungeon which I'm part of, whatever, or it's a mini game or something like that, and you start experiencing the game with different devices in different ways. It's something like we were talking before. PC is the full experience, but then if I play iPad, I can be having in my dinner table and be doing some stuff. However, I take my phone if I'm in the bus or something. In the case of VR glasses, is, hey, I'm alone right now, I can play this experience, and I want something extra of in terms of how you sense the game, and I'm going to use the VR glasses. At the end, it's not going to be one or another. It's going to be one device more to experience a different thing.
Yeah. Well, I think the good thing is it's some interesting timing right now with what's happening in AR, VR. A lot of development. We're seeing kind of maybe a transition from Web 2 to Web 3. Or we find a Web 2.5 kind of function of being able to kind of help the gamers come across to what we know is the future. And that is to where you own your own assets in game. You can start looking at, you know, a completely different model of how to play and entertain in the future. So Alvaro, it's been good having you on. We'll definitely keep an eye on what's happening over at Pulsar as you get your launch up. So great to have you. Thanks for stopping in today. We appreciate it.
Was a pleasure. Great to be here. See you soon.
You bet.
Ciao.
Okay. If you guys like this, make sure and hit the like button right now because we want to know your feedback. And if you want a project that you want us to dive into, leave a comment down below so we can maybe reach out to their CEOs or their dev teams. And we'll try to get as many of those on the show as possible. We can ask some questions, get answers out there. Sometimes it's a little hard on Twitter to get that. So make sure and just drop comments down below. And of course, if you want to catch me, you can do it out there on X at Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.